Welcome to JavaScript in less than 5 minutes. I'm Juan Lizarazo.
And I'm Jared Potter.
And today, Jared, we're going to talk numbers.
What's the largest number we can safely use in JavaScript, Juan?
So the largest number is known as quadrillion. It's a long number, and it's safely represented by this constant, the max safe integer. This number, it's the biggest number you can store in JavaScript in a number type. And it's also known as 2 to the power of 53 minus 1. So it's like that number will give you this if you do that operation.
Okay, so if that's the limit, then how can we use numbers larger than that?
So larger than that, look at this, Jared. So for example, here I'm going to define a constant using that number plus 1, and then I'm going to do it again, but saying plus 2. And then we're going to see this, like if we do A and B, it's going to say that is true. And pretty much we lost this one because it's not safe anymore. So it just doesn't recognize it. We don't have the precision. So to answer your question and work with this, we use the BigInt. So I'm going to redefine this as this BigInt. I'm going to pass the number, so max safe integer, right, plus 1n. So we represent BigInts in JavaScript using this n suffix to any number. So this is A, and I'm going to do it again with B. And now we have A and B, and A and B are not the same because A and B keeps the precision and we have the correct representation. And that's how we work in JavaScript with bigger numbers.
So what is BigInt more specifically?
So BigInt is one of the forgotten primitives. We talk about primitives, right? And BigInt is one of them, along with number. So when you don't use number, you can use BigInt.
What's the type of BigInt?
So the type of BigInt, if we do type of A, is BigInt. And remember, because it's a primitive, it's not an object, and it has no methods.
Can we use BigInt in JSON with an API request?
Unfortunately, no, you cannot serialize BigInt in JSON. So if we do something like this, like JSON dot stringify, because this class, right, and we try to serialize the value of A, right, it says, I don't know how to serialize that because JSON, the object literal notation, does not know how to serialize BigInt. It's not a valid data type there.
Okay, so then how do we serialize it then to send it to an API?
So if you're working with APIs and you're using JSON, right, you will have to serialize it back to if you're working with JavaScript in your client, you will have to use something like toString and send it out as a string. Look at this, A and B, serialized as a string, have the correct values. Then your backend will parse it. If you're working with Node, you will have to parse it back to a BigInt. If you're working with Java or something else that have this support for this type of precision for big numbers, you parse it to the appropriate data type.
Can we do normal mathematical operations on BigInts in JavaScript?
Yes. So we can do things like, for example, we have our A and B, right? And we can do A plus B, and we have even a bigger number, or we can even multiply. Look at this. We can never do this with normal numbers in JavaScript. We can also divide, and we can do any other operations here, A divided B. We can also do comparisons. So for example, Jared, comparisons are, for example, we can say A is bigger than B, or B is greater than A. You see, it's true. We can also compare with normal numbers, right? It's bigger than 1 or 2, which is true. And ultimately, we can also compare, or we can say, is this a safe integer using this function? And we can pass the number, and it will tell you that is not, compared to any number like the max safe, for example, that we have. So those are the different useful methods for this.
Yeah. And for my last question, can I pass it into isNan?
Yeah, you can use the not a number. You can use that, and you can put BigInt there. And sorry, it's not a number, and it will tell you if it is not a number or not. But that's just as normal. Most of the operations you can use with BigInt, but some of them are not allowed. So you will do try an error, or just check the documentation.